You ever have a moment where everything in your life collapses in under a minute? Where one small sentence changes how you see your own family forever? What if the people who were supposed to protect you planned your humiliation instead? I didn't know it yet, but standing inside that crowded airport terminal, I was seconds away from learning a truth that would destroy the illusion of family I had believed in for 30 years. What kind of parent cancels their own child's future without telling them? What kind of mother sends a message so cruel it stays burned into your memory forever? And how far can someone be pushed before they stop being the good son and become something else entirely? That was the moment my real story began. My name is Evan Miller, and this happened on 2026 New Year's Eve. I was standing at the airline counter, backpack slung over my shoulder, passport in hand, still half smiling like a fool who believed life was finally doing him a favor. The airport buzzed with excitement. Families laughing, couples hugging, announcements echoing overhead. Everyone was going somewhere. Except me. The woman behind the counter typed for a few seconds, then stopped. Her smile didn't fade, but something in her eyes changed. "I'm sorry, sir," she said calmly. "Your ticket has been canceled." I laughed at first. A short, confused laugh. "That's not possible," I said. "My parents booked it. I'm flying today." She turned the screen slightly so I could see it. "The reservation exists," she replied, "but it was canceled days ago." Canceled. The word hit me harder than I expected. My chest tightened. My ears rang. I asked when it was canceled, and when she told me the date, my stomach dropped. Only 2 people had access to that booking. My parents. This trip was their idea. A surprise, they'd said. A New Year's getaway to Europe. They told me I deserved it after everything I'd done. Handling their bills, fixing their financial messes, stepping in whenever something went wrong. I wasn't just their son. I was their safety net. I stepped away from the counter, my hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. I called my father first. Straight to voicemail. No surprise there. So I texted my mother. "Hey, the airline says my ticket was canceled. Is this a mistake?" Minutes passed. The crowd behind me grew. My heart pounded harder with every second. Then my phone buzzed. One message. "Happy New Year, loser." I stared at the screen, waiting for the punchline, waiting for the follow-up text that said it was a joke. Nothing came. That's when something inside me cracked. All the years of helping, all the money, all the loyalty. And this was how they chose to end it. Standing there in the airport, surrounded by strangers rushing toward their futures, I realized something terrifying and liberating at the same time. They thought they had abandoned me. They had no idea what I was about to take from them. I didn't go home after the airport. I sat in my car for a long time, watching planes take off, each one carrying a version of the life I thought I still had. By the time I drove back, something inside me had hardened. This wasn't just a cruel joke. This was calculated humiliation. The next morning, while my parents were somewhere in Europe posting smiling photos, I opened my laptop and started untangling years of quiet control. First, the car. For months earlier, I'd surprised my mother with a silver luxury sedan she'd been obsessing over. She told everyone it was proof of how close we were. What she never mentioned was that the title was still in my name. At the time, it felt like a formality. Now it felt like foresight. I called an old college friend, Daniel, who ran a dealership outside the city. He remembered the car instantly. He laughed once, then stopped when he heard my tone. "You serious?" he asked. "Completely." Within hours, a flatbed truck was on its way to my parents' driveway. I drove over myself, using the spare key I still had. I removed the personalized accessories she'd insisted on, the ones with her initials stitched into the leather. I left the driveway empty and silent. Next was the money. For years, we'd shared a savings account. It started as a convenience when they needed help managing bills. Somewhere along the way, it became their safety net and my burden. I'd watch withdrawals stack up for shopping sprees, weekend getaways, and vague house expenses that never seemed to fix anything. At the bank, the teller paused when I asked to withdraw the full balance. "All of it?" she asked. "Yes." The number looked unreal on the screen, but the feeling was crystal clear. When I closed the account, it felt like closing a door I should have shut years ago. Then I moved fast. Streaming services. Canceled. Phone plans. Removed my card. Utilities. Autopay shut off. Golf club membership my father loved bragging about. Gone. I logged into accounts I'd set up, passwords I'd reset for them, responsibilities I'd quietly carried. One by one I stepped away. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I simply stopped. My phone started lighting up by the second. Missed calls, voicemails, long messages that swung wildly between confusion, anger, and fake concern. I sent one reply, "Hope you're enjoying your trip." Then I blocked them. What I didn't expect was how fast the truth traveled. That evening my aunt called. Then my cousin. Then another relative. They'd been told I'd bailed last minute because I was ungrateful and dramatic. When I told them what actually happened, being stranded, the canceled ticket, the message from my mother, there was a long, stunned silence. "That's not a joke," my uncle finally said. "That's cruelty." By the time my parents' vacation ended, the story they tried to control no longer belonged to them. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one trying to fix the damage. I was done paying for it. By the time they came back from Europe, the damage was already irreversible. I didn't hear from them directly at first. Instead, my phone started buzzing with messages from extended family. A cousin asking if I was okay. An aunt saying she'd heard something strange about the trip. That's when I realized my parents had already started rewriting the story, painting themselves as confused victims and me as the unstable son who'd refused to show up. So I stopped hiding. I told the truth, calmly, with screenshots. The canceled ticket, the airport timestamp, the message that read, "Happy New Year, loser." That single screenshot changed everything. Within hours, the family group chat exploded. People who had stayed silent for years suddenly found their voices. Not because they loved confrontation, but because the cruelty was undeniable. You don't abandon your own child at an airport and mock them for it. Not accidentally. Not as a joke. 3 days after they returned, they showed up at my apartment. Not alone. They came with witnesses, or at least that's what they thought. An uncle, an aunt, 2 cousins, even my younger sister, standing awkwardly near the door like she'd been dragged into a courtroom she didn't ask to attend. My mother spoke first. Her voice was syrupy, rehearsed. "We just want to clear the misunderstanding." I let them in, sat down, listened. They minimized everything, called it a prank, said I was too sensitive. Claimed my father kept repeating the same line, "Family doesn't keep score." That's when I laid everything out. The car sale, the closed joint account, the canceled payments, the fact that I was no longer listed on anything tied to their finances. The room erupted. My mother screamed that I'd ruined their lives. My father accused me of betrayal. My sister started crying. But something unexpected happened. My uncle stood up. "No," he said firmly. "You did this." That was the turning point. The argument fractured the room. Half the family finally saw what I'd lived with for years. Manipulation disguised as entitlement. The other half stayed silent, uncomfortable with the truth. I asked them all to leave. They did. What I didn't know was that my parents weren't done. 2 weeks later, after returning from a short trip meant to clear my head, I found my car destroyed in the parking lot. Windows smashed. Tires slashed. Red paint sprayed across the side like a threat. Most people would panic. I didn't. Because months earlier, after the airport incident, I'd installed cameras. Not out of paranoia. Out of pattern recognition. And the footage? Clear. Steady. Devastating. What they did next would take this from family drama into a legal nightmare they never saw coming. I thought the nightmare was finally over when we came back from Hawaii. For the first time in years, I felt light. No constant anxiety. No guilt. No emergency calls asking for money. Just peace. That illusion shattered the moment I pulled into my apartment parking lot. My car was unrecognizable. Windows smashed. Tires completely destroyed. Deep red spray paint smeared across the side doors in sloppy, furious letters. "You shouldn't have touched what was ours." My stomach dropped, but my hands didn't shake. Because unlike them, I had learned. Weeks earlier, after the first wave of threatening voicemails, I had installed security cameras around my building. Front, rear, parking lot, high definition, night vision. I already knew who it was before I even checked. The footage was clear, painfully clear. My father moved first, slashing the tires with slow, deliberate precision. My mother followed, laughing while she shook the spray can. Then they took turns smashing the windows with a bat like it was some twisted bonding activity. At 3 in the morning. Across state lines. I didn't hesitate. I filed the police report. Uploaded the footage. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I sent the video to a local news tip line. They loved it. By the next evening, the headline was everywhere. A respected local couple arrested after vandalizing their son's vehicle in a family dispute. Their faces played on loop during primetime news. The same people who lectured others about values, about respect, about family. They were arrested publicly at their country club during Sunday brunch. No courtesy. No private exit. Handcuffs. Phones recording. Friends staring. The charges weren't minor. Felony vandalism. Criminal mischief. And because they crossed state lines, federal charges were discussed. Legal fees drained what little money they had left. Without my financial safety net, everything collapsed fast. Missed mortgage payments. Credit cards maxed out. Lawsuits. Their country club membership revoked. Friends stopped calling. Within months, the house they once bragged about was sold under pressure. They moved into a small rental on the edge of town. The same area they used to mock. My father came out of retirement to work mall security. My mother started pushing online schemes, pretending everything was fine. It wasn't. The family split permanently. Most relatives stood by me. My sister eventually admitted the truth, that she had been afraid to confront them for years. We're slowly rebuilding now. A year later, a letter arrived. Apologies. Regret. Promises of change. I didn't open it. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Today my life is different. The money I once used to save them now builds my future. Investments. Travel. Real relationships. Boundaries. I learned the hardest lesson late, but it stuck. Family doesn't mean obligation. Love doesn't mean sacrifice without limits. And respect should never be optional. If you stayed till the end, you already know. This wasn't revenge. It was survival. If this story hit you, like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, do you want more family betrayal stories, legal revenge thrillers, or true crime style dramas next? The next story is even darker.